Close your eyes for a little while and allow the sounds of the present day to become softer. Imagine that the bright lights of the modern world have slowly faded away. The roads are no longer filled with engines. The air is free of distant machines. Only a quiet breeze remains, carrying the warm scent of river water, damp earth, and dry reeds. Tonight, we travel to ancient Egypt during the season when the Nile has risen beyond its familiar banks. The flood has covered wide fields with calm water. Villages rest beside channels that seem larger than they were only a few weeks before. Boats have become the easiest way to move from one place to another. The river has quietly taken over the land, not with anger, but with patient certainty. Far from palaces and great temples, ordinary people continue their gentle routines. Fishermen tie ropes. Farmers wait for the water to settle. Potters shape clay beneath shaded roofs. Bakers wake before sunrise. Children whisper beside their mothers. Elderly men sit beneath date palms, watching boats drift across the shining flood. And somewhere along the edge of the Nile, a traveler prepares to sleep beside a river boat. There is nothing unusual about this evening. In truth, it is much like countless evenings that came before it. Yet every ordinary night carries its own small details, and those details have quietly disappeared beneath thousands of years of history. Tonight, we return to them, slowly and peacefully. The sun has already slipped below the western hills. Its final light lingers across the water like thin strips of copper. Gentle ripples catch the fading glow before darkness begins to soften every shape along the riverbank. The air still holds the warmth of the long afternoon. Even after sunset, the stones remain warm beneath bare feet. Mud bricks slowly release the heat they gathered all day. Palm leaves barely move in the evening breeze. Nearby, several boats rest against wooden stakes driven into the soft bank. They are not grand ships carrying kings or precious treasures. These are working boats, built from local wood and repaired many times across the years. Their sides show scratches from reeds, docks, and hidden branches beneath the flood water. The ropes holding them are thick with age. Fibers have darkened from years of wet mornings and hot afternoons. Every knot tells its own quiet story of careful hands. One of these boats belongs to a grain merchant who has spent the day transporting sacks between villages. Another belongs to fishermen who will leave before dawn. A smaller vessel carries pottery wrapped carefully inside woven baskets. None of the owners hurry now. The day's labor has ended. There is little reason to rush when darkness covers the river. The traveler chooses a place just above the water line where the ground feels firm beneath a simple woven sleeping mat. Flood season changes everything. Places that were dry only weeks ago now disappear beneath quiet water. Everyone has learned to choose resting places carefully. He places the mat beside the boat instead of inside it. Sleeping on land feels steadier after a long day drifting across gentle currents. The evening breeze carries coolness at last. It brushes softly across damp skin. The relief is small but deeply welcome. During flood season, work begins very early because the midday heat quickly becomes exhausting. Most people have been awake since long before sunrise. Muscles ache quietly beneath loose linen clothing. Hands feel rough from rope, baskets, wooden poles, and wet reeds. Fatigue settles naturally. No one fights against it. It arrives as faithfully as the evening birds returning to their nests. Across the river, frogs have already begun their nightly songs. Their voices rise together in slow waves. Some sound close enough to touch. Others echo faintly through the darkness where flood water stretches across distant fields. The sounds blend into something peaceful. Nothing calls for attention. Nothing demands urgency. only life continuing as it always has. A cooking fire burns several steps away where another family prepares their final meal before sleep. The smoke rises gently into still air. It carries the familiar smell of barley bread warming beside flat stones. Someone stirs a simple pot filled with onions, lentils, and herbs gathered earlier that morning. The scent reaches the traveler. It reminds him that even modest food tastes satisfying after steady work beneath the Egyptian sun. Nearby, an older woman needs another piece of dough. Her movements have become almost effortless after decades of practice. She no longer needs to think about each motion. Her hands remember everything. Children sit quietly beside her. They are unusually calm. The long day has tired them too. One little boy leans against a basket filled with reeds. His eyes grow heavier each minute as he watches sparks rise from the cooking fire. Soon he will be carried inside a small mud brick home where cool darkness waits beyond a doorway. The houses near the river are built simply. Walls of sun-dried mud brick hold back much of the day's heat. Roofs are made from wooden beams covered with reeds, branches, and packed mud. They are not large homes, but they provide welcome shelter from harsh sunlight. Many families sleep together in one room. Others spend especially warm nights outside beneath the open sky. Flood season changes these habits slightly. Some choose rooftops. Some choose riverbanks. Others remain beside their boats in case rising water shifts during the night. The traveler understands this well. Every few hours he will wake naturally, listening to the gentle movement of water against the wooden hull beside him. Not because he fears danger. Simply because years beside the Nile have trained his ears to notice every small change. The river speaks quietly. Those who live beside it learn its language. A slightly stronger splash may mean a fish has surfaced. A scraping sound could be floating reeds brushing against the boat. A loose rope might tap softly against wood. Each sound becomes familiar. Each belongs naturally to the night. Above, the first stars begin appearing one by one. Without city lights, the heavens seem endless. The Milky Way stretches softly across the darkness. Ancient Egyptians often looked upward with deep respect, seeing patterns and stories woven among the stars. Tonight the traveler notices only a few familiar constellations before lowering his gaze once again. His attention returns to the river. Moonlight has not yet risen. The Nile appears almost black now, though its surface still reflects faint pieces of starlight. Occasionally, a slow current carries clusters of reeds downstream. They drift silently past sleeping villages, past fishing docks, past temples resting farther north, past fields hidden beneath flood water. The river never truly sleeps. It simply moves more quietly. A fisherman walks toward the boats carrying a small oil lamp. Its flame dances gently behind thin clay walls that protect it from the breeze. He checks each rope carefully. One knot receives another pull. Another rope is tightened. The boats remain secure. Satisfied, he blows out the lamp. Darkness returns almost immediately. Eyes quickly adjust. Soon every outline becomes visible again beneath the growing field of stars. The traveler stretches slowly across his woven mat. The fibers press gently against tired shoulders. His sandals remain beside the boat where they will stay dry through the night. His folded cloak becomes a simple pillow beneath his head. Comfort here is modest. Yet after honest labor, modest comfort often feels enough. The sounds continue. Water. Frogs. Soft conversation. A distant donkey calling once before falling silent. Palm leaves brushing together. Someone quietly laughing before voices fade away. Then only the river remains. Flood season brings both uncertainty and hope. The water covering the fields means planting must wait. But everyone understands what follows. When the flood slowly withdraws, it leaves behind rich dark soil unlike almost any other. That soil feeds villages. It fills storage jars. It supports families through another year. Tonight no one worries about planting. Nature follows its own patient calendar. People have learned to move with it instead of against it. The traveler closes his eyes. Behind his eyelids, the warmth of sunset still lingers faintly. His breathing slows. His shoulders relax. Nearby, the wooden boat creaks softly as tiny waves lift it again and again. The rhythm becomes almost like breathing itself. Rise. Rest. Settle. Rise. Rest. Settle. Hours pass gently. The moon finally climbs above the eastern horizon. Silver light spreads slowly across the flooded landscape. What was hidden now appears once more. Reeds cast thin shadows across quiet water. The boats shine softly beneath pale light. Even the smallest ripples become visible. The traveler wakes briefly. Not fully. Just enough to notice the cooler air. He pulls his cloak slightly closer around his shoulders. Then he listens. An owl calls from somewhere among the palm trees. A fish splashes once. Far away, another boat moves carefully through the moonlit water. Its pole touches the riverbed with quiet, steady rhythm. Push. Glide. Push. Glide. The sound gradually disappears into the distance. Sleep returns easily. This is how many nights pass beside the Nile. Without urgency. Without noise. Without interruption. The ancient world often moved more slowly than we imagine. There were busy markets, crowded workshops, and long days of difficult labor. Yet when darkness arrived, much of that movement simply melted away. Night belonged to rest. To recovery. To quiet conversation. To listening. To watching stars. To sleeping beside trusted boats that would carry tomorrow's work. Long before clocks measured every hour, people understood time through changing light, familiar sounds, and the steady patterns of nature. The traveler does not know exactly what hour it is. He does not need to know. The moon tells enough. The cooling air tells more. The silence between bird calls tells the rest. Somewhere beyond the flooded fields, cattle sleep upon higher ground. Their breathing forms quiet clouds in the cooler night air. Shepherds rest nearby. Dogs occasionally lift their heads before settling once more. Even insects seem calmer beside the larger voice of the river. The Nile remains the center of everything. It provides water, food, travel, work, rest. Even dreams seem shaped by its endless movement. Generations have fallen asleep listening to these same gentle sounds. Generations yet unborn will do the same. The flood rises. The flood falls. The river continues. And beside one simple working boat, beneath a sky crowded with ancient stars, another peaceful night slowly drifts onward, carried gently by the calm and patient waters of the Nile. The night deepens so quietly that it is almost impossible to notice when one hour becomes the next. No bell marks the passing of time. No voice announces the middle of the night. The darkness simply grows softer, and the world settles into an even slower rhythm. The traveler remains asleep beside the river boat, his breathing calm and even. The woven mat beneath him has molded itself to the shape of his body after many nights of use. It is not thick, yet it keeps him above the cool dampness of the earth. His folded cloak supports his head, while one hand rests lightly upon the edge of the rolled blanket beside him. Only a few steps away, the wooden boat rises and falls with movements so gentle they are almost invisible. The flood water carries no strong current here. Instead, it rocks the vessel with quiet patience, as though the river itself is trying not to disturb anyone sleeping along its banks. A loose length of rope brushes against the side of the hull. Tap. A pause follows. Then another soft tap. The sound repeats every few moments, never loudly enough to wake a tired worker, yet always present for anyone listening carefully. Many generations have fallen asleep to this simple rhythm. Children born beside the Nile grow accustomed to it before they can walk. Even when they travel inland later in life, they sometimes find themselves missing the familiar sounds of ropes, water, and wooden boats shifting through the night. The moon climbs a little higher. Its pale light reaches farther across the flooded fields. What had seemed like one great sheet of darkness now reveals countless narrow channels winding between clusters of reeds. Small islands of higher ground rise above the water, supporting palm trees whose reflections stretch across the river like painted lines. The flood season has transformed the landscape into something peaceful and almost dreamlike. Fields that will one day grow barley now rest beneath calm water. Paths used by farmers have disappeared beneath gentle ripples. Only those who know the land well can remember where roads once crossed the fields. Boatmen learn these hidden routes from their fathers. They remember where the ground rises beneath the surface. They remember old trees standing at the edge of invisible fields. They remember distant temple walls that guide them even when familiar roads vanish beneath the flood. The traveler knows these waterways well. Tomorrow he will guide his boat along one of these quiet paths before the heat of the afternoon arrives. But tomorrow is still far away. Tonight belongs to stillness. Not far from the sleeping mat, another family rests beneath a simple shelter woven from reeds and palm branches. Their house stands only a short distance away, but during flood season they prefer sleeping closer to the boats. The father believes it is wise to remain nearby in case the ropes need adjusting before sunrise. Experience has taught him that the river sometimes rises a little during the night. Never suddenly. Never with violence. Just enough that careful people notice. He sleeps lightly. Years of responsibility have trained him to wake at the smallest unusual sound. Beside him, his wife sleeps more deeply. The long day has left her pleasantly exhausted. Before dawn she ground grain using a heavy stone. She carried water, mixed dough, baked bread, washed linen in the river, helped mend fishing nets, prepared vegetables, fed the children, gathered dried reeds for cooking fires. By sunset, every movement had become slower. Now the night's cool air eases the warmth still held within tired muscles. Nearby, two children sleep beneath one shared blanket. Their sandals rest side by side. One small hand reaches unconsciously toward the other during sleep. Their breathing remains perfectly peaceful. The youngest had spent much of the afternoon asking questions about the flood. Why does the river grow larger? Where does all the water come from? How long before the fields appear again? The father answered patiently. He explained that far to the south, beyond lands the children have never seen, heavy rains feed the great river. Those distant rains eventually arrive here. The Nile grows. The fields disappear. Then, slowly, the waters return to their familiar banks. The children listened with wide eyes. To them, the flood still feels like quiet magic. To their parents, it is simply another season. The traveler stirs gently. Not awake. only shifting slightly as cooler air settles across the riverbank. His dreams drift through ordinary memories. He sees bundles of papyrus tied together with cord. He remembers the smell of fresh-cut reeds drying beneath the sun. He hears merchants greeting one another at small riverside markets. His dreams contain no kings, no battles, only familiar work carried out beneath endless Egyptian skies. Far across the water, another boat begins moving. Its owner has chosen to travel during the cool hours before dawn. Some journeys are easier beneath moonlight than beneath the fierce afternoon sun. The boat glides almost silently. A long wooden pole reaches downward until it touches the riverbed. The boatman leans forward. The vessel slides ahead. Then the pole lifts once more. Again and again. The movement has become second nature. His shoulders know exactly how much strength to use. His hands know where to grip the smooth wood. His feet adjust automatically to every gentle shift beneath him. He has repeated these motions thousands of times. There is comfort in familiar work. The traveler hears the distant scraping of the pole through his sleep. His mind recognizes it without waking fully. It belongs to the river. Like frogs. Like birds. Like the whisper of reeds. The moonlight reaches the side of the boat resting beside him. Tiny imperfections in the wood become visible. Small patches show where repairs have been carefully made over many years. One plank is newer than the rest. Another carries marks left by countless ropes pulled tight during loading. Nothing has been wasted. Wood is valuable. A good boat is repaired again and again. Every careful repair allows another season of travel. Another season of fishing. Another harvest carried across the flood. Near the stern, a clay jar rests beneath woven coverings. Inside is fresh water collected earlier in the day. Even beside the Nile, drinking directly from the river is not always wise. Families often allow water to settle inside large jars before using it. The clay keeps it pleasantly cool throughout the day. Beside the jar rests a small basket containing dried dates. Tomorrow morning they will provide a quick meal before work begins again. Simple food. Easy to carry. Full of welcome sweetness after long hours of labor. The smell of damp earth grows stronger as the night cools. Flood water has soaked deep into the riverbank. The scent rises gently with the evening breeze. Mixed with it are traces of wet reeds, fresh mud, distant cooking fires now fading into cold ash, and faint sweetness from flowering plants growing along higher ground. Ancient Egypt has many scents. Not all of them pleasant. Busy workshops smell of leather. Pottery yards smell of wet clay. Animal pens carry their own heavy odor. Markets are filled with spices, onions, fish, and grain. But beside the river at night, most of those stronger smells disappear. Only earth and water remain. The stars slowly wheel overhead. Some appear brighter than others. To many Egyptians, these lights are more than decoration. They are familiar companions. Travelers use them to guide boats. Farmers notice their changing positions through the seasons. Priests watch them carefully from temple roofs. Ordinary workers simply enjoy their quiet beauty after long days beneath the blazing sun. The traveler opens his eyes for only a moment. He gazes upward. His thoughts are slow. There is no need to hurry back to sleep. He watches one bright star shining above the eastern horizon. Then another farther south. The sky seems endless. He breathes deeply. The air feels cooler now. Somewhere behind him, a nightbird calls once before silence returns. He closes his eyes again. His body sinks comfortably into rest. A breeze passes through the palm trees. Thousands of narrow leaves move together with a gentle whisper. The sound resembles distant rain, though rain itself is uncommon here. Children sometimes imagine invisible hands brushing across the tops of the trees. Adults simply smile, knowing the evening wind has returned. Palm trees are constant companions along much of the Nile. Their trunks lean gently toward sunlight. Their roots hold firmly beside the river. Their fruit feeds families. Their leaves become baskets, mats, roofing, and rope. Even fallen branches find new purpose as firewood or tools. Little goes unused. The people living beside the Nile understand the value of every resource around them. The flood itself teaches patience. One season prepares the next. Nothing happens quickly. The fields cannot be rushed. Seeds wait. Water waits. People wait. The traveler has learned this lesson many times. When he was young, he often wished each day would pass more quickly. He looked eagerly toward festivals, toward market days, toward journeys north. But with age came a quieter understanding. Many of life's peaceful moments arrive during waiting. Waiting beside a tide boat. Waiting for bread to bake. Waiting for the morning mist to lift. Waiting for the flood to slowly retreat. These quiet spaces become their own kind of gift. A fish breaks the surface nearby. The splash sends small circles spreading outward through the moonlit water. The rings grow wider, then disappear. Nothing else changes. The river returns to calm. Hidden beneath the surface, schools of fish move through channels flooded only weeks before. They explore places where grain once grew. Birds will arrive at sunrise hoping for an easy meal. Fishermen know this. Their nets are already folded neatly inside their boats. Tomorrow's work has quietly begun, even while everyone sleeps. The traveler dreams again. This time he walks along a dusty road leading toward a riverside village. The morning sun has not yet risen. Other workers walk beside him carrying baskets across their shoulders. No one speaks very much. Conversation can wait until the day's first tasks are finished. The dream feels peaceful because it reflects ordinary life. Nothing unusual happens. Only familiar routines unfolding beneath familiar skies. Even in sleep, the mind often returns to what it knows best. Hours continue slipping quietly past. The moon begins its slow journey downward. Its light grows softer. In the east, although darkness still covers the land, the faintest hint of change waits beyond the horizon. Morning is still distant. Yet nature has already begun preparing for its arrival. The coolest part of the night settles gently across the floodplain. The traveler pulls his blanket slightly higher without waking. Around him, the village remains wrapped in peaceful silence. The boats continue their slow rocking. The reeds continue their quiet whispering. The Nile continues its patient journey toward the northern sea, just as it has for thousands of years, carrying with it the hopes, labor, and quiet dreams of everyone who calls its banks home. The coolness before dawn settles gently over the flooded land, wrapping the riverbank in a calm that feels almost timeless. The warmth stored in the earth throughout the long day has nearly faded. The stones beside the water are no longer hot beneath bare feet. Instead, they hold only a gentle memory of yesterday's sunlight. The traveler sleeps peacefully beside the boat, his breathing matching the slow movement of the Nile. His face is relaxed now. The lines that appeared during hours of work have softened. Muscles that carried baskets, pulled ropes, and steadied long wooden poles are finally at rest. Around him, the village remains quiet. No doors open. No voices call across the water. No market has yet awakened. The world seems content to remain asleep for just a little longer. Only nature continues its patient conversation. Tiny insects move through the reeds, creating sounds so delicate they almost disappear beneath the steady whisper of the river. Somewhere close to the bank, a frog slips gently into the water. Its small splash is quickly swallowed by the quiet current. Above, the stars still shine brightly. Some seem almost close enough to touch. The clear desert air allows them to sparkle with unusual sharpness. They have watched countless nights like this one. They have looked down upon generations of farmers, fishermen, scribes, builders, and merchants who all found rest beside the same faithful river. The Nile changes each season, yet somehow it always remains familiar. Its flood arrives. Its waters spread. Its banks disappear beneath calm waves. Then, little by little, the river returns to its usual path, leaving behind rich black soil that promises another year of life. The people who live here do not think of this as something extraordinary. It is simply the rhythm of the world they know. Just as morning always follows night, the flood always gives way to planting. The traveler learned these rhythms as a child. He remembers sitting beside his grandfather many years ago, watching boats drift silently through the evening light. His grandfather rarely hurried while speaking. Every story unfolded slowly, allowing pauses to become part of the tale. He had often pointed toward the river. "The Nile never rushes," he would say softly. "It reaches the sea without hurry." The traveler did not fully understand those words when he was young. Children often wish for tomorrow to arrive quickly. They wait impatiently for festivals, new sandals, sweet dates, or journeys to neighboring villages. But years of steady work have taught him the meaning behind those simple words. There is quiet strength in moving steadily. There is comfort in familiar routines. The flood season reminds everyone of this lesson. Nothing can force the waters to leave sooner. Nothing can hurry the fields into growing grain again. People wait because waiting has become part of living. Nearby, the family sleeping beneath their reed shelter remains wrapped in peaceful dreams. The father has turned onto one side during the night, one arm resting beneath his head. The mother's blanket has slipped slightly from her shoulder. A cool breeze touches her face, though it does not wake her. One child murmurs softly in sleep. Perhaps he dreams of paddling a tiny boat through flooded fields. Perhaps he dreams of climbing date palms beside his older cousins. Dreams often borrow their pictures from ordinary days. There is comfort in familiar places. A small clay lamp rests near the family's belongings. Its flame burned low hours ago before quietly disappearing. Now only the faint scent of cooled oil remains. The lamp will be cleaned later today. Fresh oil will be poured inside. A new wick will be placed carefully into the opening. Simple objects are cared for with patience because replacing them is not easy. Nothing useful is treated carelessly. A basket woven from palm leaves may serve one family for many years. A clay bowl, if handled gently, may pass from parent to child. Wooden oars receive careful repairs whenever cracks appear. Even worn sandals deserve attention. Leather straps are stitched again instead of thrown away. Life beside the Nile encourages careful hands. Every object carries the memory of the person who made it. Across the quiet water, a heron stands motionless among the reeds. Its long legs disappear beneath the shallow flood. It waits without movement. Only its eyes remain alert. The bird understands patience as well as any fisherman. Minutes pass. Nothing happens. Still it waits. Then, with one quick motion, its beak slips beneath the surface. A small fish disappears. The water grows calm once again. The bird resumes its silent watch. The traveler continues sleeping. His dreams have become lighter now. The deepest part of the night has passed. Soon his body will begin preparing to wake, though he does not know it yet. There is no clock beside him. No bell waiting to ring. His body has learned the language of dawn through many years of habit. The changing temperature. The fading stars. The first distant bird. These gentle signals arrive every morning. Few people in ancient Egypt needed anything more. Far away, hidden beyond clusters of palms, a donkey shifts its weight inside a simple enclosure. It stamps one hoof softly against packed earth before settling again. Nearby, goats sleep together, their warmth shared beneath the open sky. The animals are quiet now. Their own work will begin after sunrise. Some will carry baskets. Others will provide milk. Some will simply graze upon higher ground where the flood has not reached. Every creature follows its own peaceful routine. The moon has begun sinking lower toward the western horizon. Its silver light grows softer with each passing moment. Shadows become less sharp. The water reflects fewer bright highlights. Soon another kind of light will slowly replace it. Not yet the golden sunlight of morning. Only the faint gray glow that gently announces a new day is approaching. The traveler stirs. His fingers tighten briefly around the edge of his blanket before relaxing once more. His breathing changes ever so slightly. He is still asleep. Yet his mind has begun drifting toward wakefulness. Somewhere deep within the village, another worker turns over on his sleeping mat. Elsewhere, an elderly woman opens her eyes for only a moment. She has reached an age where sleep comes in shorter pieces. Instead of becoming frustrated, she simply listens. She hears the frogs. She hears the water touching the riverbank. She hears the leaves moving high above her roof. These familiar sounds comfort her. Soon she closes her eyes again. Rest returns. Time continues flowing quietly. The floodwater reflects the first hint of pale color in the eastern sky. It is so faint that most sleeping people would never notice. The stars still shine overhead. The moon still hangs above the western horizon. Yet something has changed. Darkness no longer feels endless. Morning has begun its slow approach. The traveler dreams once more. This time he is repairing the very boat beside which he sleeps. He runs his hands across rough wooden planks. He presses fresh fibers into narrow gaps between boards. He smooths protective pitch across the seams with careful patience. His father stands nearby, offering quiet advice rather than commands. The work is slow. Neither man hurries. A well-repaired boat rewards careful hands. The dream feels almost real because these are memories, not imagination. Many years ago, this work truly happened. The smell of fresh wood. The warmth of sunlight upon the river. The sound of gentle scraping as old pitch was removed. These memories remain clear even after many seasons have passed. A cool breeze crosses the floodplain. It carries the scent of wet earth mixed with young papyrus growing along the water's edge. The reeds bend together. Thousands of slender stems move with graceful unity. When the breeze fades, they become still once more. The Nile has always been generous with papyrus. Its tall green stalks provide writing material for scribes, but they also become rope, baskets, sandals, mats, and light boats for shorter journeys. A single plant may serve many purposes. People living beside the river notice such things naturally. Nothing growing along the banks is overlooked. Everything has value. Even fallen reeds may become fuel for tomorrow's cooking fire. Closer to the village, stacks of drying fishing nets rest neatly beneath simple shelters. Yesterday they were stretched across wooden frames to dry beneath the afternoon sun. Later today they will be folded once again and carried back to waiting boats. Many hands helped repair them during recent evenings. One person tied new knots. Another replaced broken cords. Children gathered loose fibers from the ground. Older fishermen checked each section carefully before declaring the net ready for another day. No single person completed the work alone. The river encourages cooperation. Boats require more than one pair of hands. Heavy baskets move more easily when shared. Even quiet conversations beside evening fires help lighten tired hearts after long days beneath the sun. The traveler has experienced this countless times. He remembers evenings when workers gathered simply to sit together. Sometimes they spoke about tomorrow's tasks. Sometimes they exchanged small stories from neighboring villages. Often they sat silently, watching darkness settle across the flood water. Silence never felt uncomfortable. The river filled empty spaces with gentle sound. There was no need to speak constantly. Listening could be enough. A faint call reaches across the water. It comes from a bird greeting the approaching dawn. Another answers from farther downstream. Their voices are soft, almost questioning, as though they too are waiting for daylight to arrive. The traveler's eyes remain closed. Yet his breathing has become lighter now. Soon the familiar work of another day beside the Nile will begin. The ropes will be checked. The boat will be untied. Fresh water will be poured from cool clay jars. Simple bread will be shared before the morning's first journey across the quiet flood. But for these last peaceful moments before sunrise, everything remains suspended between sleep and waking. The river continues its endless, gentle journey. The boat rocks almost imperceptibly against its rope. The stars slowly surrender their place in the sky. And beside the calm waters of the Nile, another ordinary morning prepares to unfold with the same quiet grace that has blessed this ancient land for countless generations. The eastern horizon brightens so gradually that no one can say exactly when night becomes morning. The change is patient. The darkness does not disappear all at once. Instead, it loosens its gentle hold upon the river little by little, allowing soft gray light to spread across the flooded plain. The stars begin to fade. Not suddenly. One after another, they quietly withdraw from the sky until only the brightest remain. The moon lingers for a while longer above the western bank. Its pale light grows weaker with every passing moment, surrendering peacefully to the coming day. The traveler still lies beside his boat. His eyes remain closed, yet sleep has become lighter than it was only an hour ago. His body has rested well through the cool hours of the night. The stiffness in his shoulders has eased. His hands, rough from many seasons of labor, no longer ache as they did after sunset. The woven mat beneath him feels slightly cool now. A thin layer of dew has settled upon the reeds nearby, leaving tiny drops that catch the earliest hints of morning light. In this part of Egypt, dew is never heavy, but during the coolest hours before sunrise it sometimes gathers gently upon leaves, ropes, and woven baskets left outside overnight. The scent of damp earth fills the air. It is a clean smell. Fresh. Quiet. The flood has soaked every low place beside the river, and the rich black soil beneath the water is already preparing itself for another season of planting. Nothing above the ground seems hurried. Yet beneath the shallow water, countless small changes are taking place. Tiny fish move through submerged grasses. Insects crawl across wet reeds. Roots drink deeply from the flood. Nature begins each day long before people do. A breeze arrives from across the river. It carries the coolness of open water and brushes softly across the traveler's face. His eyelids flutter. Slowly, almost reluctantly, they open. For several moments he simply looks upward. The sky has become a pale blue-gray. The brightest stars have disappeared. Only a handful remain visible high overhead. He does not rise immediately. There is no reason to hurry. Instead, he listens. Morning always announces itself through sound before the sun itself appears. A single bird calls from a distant palm. Another answers from somewhere closer. The frogs that sang throughout the night have become quieter. Their chorus fades as daylight approaches. The traveler takes one long breath. The cool morning air fills his lungs more comfortably than the hot air of afternoon ever could. These peaceful moments before sunrise are treasured by nearly everyone who works beside the Nile. Soon the heat will return. Soon mussels will once again pull ropes, lift baskets, push boats, and carry heavy loads. But for now, the day still belongs to calmness. He slowly sits upright. The blanket slips from his shoulders. He folds it carefully. Every movement is practiced. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is thrown carelessly onto the ground. His cloak is shaken gently before being folded beside the blanket. The woven sleeping mat is rolled tightly from one end to the other and secured with a narrow leather strap. This routine has become as familiar as breathing. He has repeated it hundreds of times. Perhaps thousands. Nearby, the boat waits exactly where it rested through the night. Its rope remains firm around the wooden stake driven into the riverbank. The traveler walks toward it with quiet steps. The cool earth feels pleasant beneath his sandals. Small marks left by yesterday's footsteps are still visible in patches of drying mud. He places one hand upon the side of the boat. The wood feels cool after the long night. Tiny drops of moisture have collected upon its surface. His fingers move slowly across familiar scratches and smooth repairs. Each mark reminds him of another journey. Another season. Another flood. He bends to examine the rope. The knot remains secure. Still, he tightens it slightly. Not because it is necessary. Simply because careful habits become second nature after many years. A boat deserves attention. It carries more than cargo. It carries livelihoods. Families depend upon it. The first true light of dawn begins spreading across the eastern sky. Soft shades of pale gold appear beneath layers of gray. The river reflects every change. Its surface shifts from deep blue to silver, then toward gentle bronze. The flooded fields begin revealing details hidden throughout the night. Clusters of papyrus stand quietly above the water. Palm trees become clearer. Small islands of higher ground appear once again. Farther downstream, another boat rests near a narrow inlet. Its owner has not yet awakened. Smoke does not yet rise from nearby houses. The village remains wrapped in peaceful silence. The traveler reaches into the boat and removes a small clay jar. He uncovers it carefully. The water inside remained cool throughout the night. He pours a little into his hands. The water slips over his fingers. He washes his face slowly. The coolness chases away the final traces of sleep. Drops fall back onto the earth. He drinks a few careful mouthfuls. Nothing more. Fresh water must be used wisely. The clay jar is covered again and returned to its place beneath woven reed coverings that protect it from the coming sun. Nearby, another worker begins to stir. The father who slept beneath the reed shelter slowly rises onto one elbow. For a few moments he simply watches the river. His eyes follow the gentle movement of floating reeds carried downstream. He smiles faintly. The flood has been kind this year. The water reached the fields well. If everything continues as expected, the coming harvest may be generous. Such thoughts arrive naturally each morning during flood season. Hope grows quietly beside the river. His wife remains asleep for another little while. She has worked hard through many long days. He allows her these few extra moments of rest. There is kindness in small acts that require no words. He stands and stretches carefully. His back straightens. His shoulders roll slowly. Years of lifting grain sacks and rowing boats have left him strong, though not without stiffness. The body remembers every season. Even so, he greets the morning with gratitude. Another day has arrived. Another opportunity to work beside the Nile. Children sleep longer. Their dreams remain peaceful. One little girl hugs a small woven basket she insisted upon keeping beside her before bedtime. Yesterday she collected smooth stones from a dry path before the flood covered it. To her, they are treasures. Ordinary things often become precious in the hands of children. Soon she will wake and search for new wonders among reeds, shells, feathers, and bits of polished wood carried by the river. Not far away, an elderly fisherman has already opened his eyes. Unlike the younger workers, he needs very little sleep now. He sits quietly upon a flat stone overlooking the water. His fishing net rests beside him. Instead of immediately preparing it, he simply watches the dawn unfold. He has witnessed thousands of mornings. Yet none have become ordinary. Every sunrise paints the flood water differently. Every breeze carries its own scent. Every season brings small changes that only patient eyes notice. He sees a kingfisher flash across the water. Its wings catch the growing light for only an instant before disappearing among reeds. He notices tiny ripples spreading outward where fish feed near the surface. He observes floating blossoms drifting gently northward. Nothing escapes his quiet attention. Years spent beside the river have taught him to notice the smallest details. The traveler sees the old fisherman and raises one hand in greeting. No words are exchanged. They do not need them. Their simple gesture carries years of mutual respect. People who work beside the Nile often understand one another through shared routines rather than long conversations. The first cooking fire of the morning appears. A thin ribbon of smoke rises from a mud brick home farther inland. Soon another follows. Then another. The village slowly awakens. The smell of fresh bread begins spreading through the cool air. Someone has already started grinding barley with a heavy stone. The steady scraping sound drifts softly across the quiet settlement. Stone against grain. Again. 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 The rhythm is slow and unchanging. Inside another home, a young boy carefully gathers dried reeds for the morning fire. His mother arranges flat rounds of dough upon a warm baking surface. She moves with calm confidence. Every step has been practiced since childhood. Her own mother taught her these movements. And before that, another generation did the same. Morning bread connects families across centuries. The traveler reaches once more into his boat. He removes a small bundle wrapped in linen. Inside are 2 pieces of barley bread baked yesterday afternoon and several dried dates. His breakfast is simple. He sits upon the edge of the riverbank while eating slowly. There is no rush. The bread is firm but satisfying. The dates provide gentle sweetness. As he eats, he watches the sunlight spread farther across the flood. Birds begin flying in greater numbers now. White egrets step carefully through the shallows. A pair of ducks glides quietly between patches of papyrus. Far overhead, larger birds circle upon rising currents of cool morning air. The river has become busy again. Not noisy. Simply alive. A narrow fishing boat unties from a nearby stake. Its owner pushes gently against the riverbed with a long wooden pole. The boat glides forward almost without sound. Its reflection stretches across the still water before breaking into soft ripples. Another day of quiet work has begun. The traveler finishes his meal and brushes a few crumbs from his hands. He folds the linen cloth neatly. Nothing is left behind. The riverbank remains clean, just as he found it the evening before. He stands beside his boat for a long moment, looking across the flooded fields glowing beneath the first warm rays of the rising sun. The world around him feels peaceful. The water is calm. The breeze is gentle. The village wakes without haste. And as the light slowly grows brighter over the patient Nile, the quiet rhythm of another ancient day begins to unfold, one careful breath and one steady heartbeat at a time. The first golden light of the sun slips quietly above the eastern horizon, touching the tops of the palm trees before it reaches the river itself. It does not arrive with sudden brightness. Instead, it spreads gently across the flooded land, painting the still water with soft shades of gold, pale amber, and warm bronze. The traveler stands beside his boat for another moment, allowing the coolness of early morning to linger a little longer. This is his favorite part of the day. The air feels light. His clothes, which seemed heavy with dust the afternoon before, now feel fresh in the gentle breeze. The sounds around him remain calm, though the village is slowly awakening. From one house comes the steady rhythm of grain being ground between heavy stones. From another comes the quiet laughter of two sisters preparing baskets for the day's work. A donkey gives a low call before beginning its own morning. Farther away, ducks paddle through the flood water, leaving long silver lines behind them. The traveler bends once more to inspect his boat. Morning light reveals details that darkness had hidden. The wood shows countless shades of brown, from deep weathered boards near the bottom to lighter repairs made only a few seasons ago. Small wooden pegs hold several planks firmly together. The seams are sealed with pitch pressed carefully into every narrow opening. He runs his fingertips along the edge of the hull. Nothing feels loose. Nothing seems weak. Even so, he pauses beside one repaired section and presses gently against it. Years of experience have taught him that a careful inspection each morning saves many hours of difficult work later. The river is generous, but it also rewards those who prepare well. Inside the boat lie several neatly arranged bundles. A coil of rope rests beside a wooden pole polished smooth from many years of use. A woven basket contains spare cord, a small wooden mallet, several wooden pegs, and a sharp copper knife whose blade has been sharpened countless times. Each tool has its place. Nothing is scattered. Order makes work easier. When every object can be found without searching, the morning begins peacefully. Nearby, the elderly fisherman who greeted the dawn rises from his flat stone. His movements are slower than those of younger men, but there is no uncertainty in them. He folds his net with patient hands. Each section is gathered carefully. If one knot becomes tangled, he stops immediately to free it. A tangled net is never ignored. Small problems become larger ones if left until later. He learned that lesson many years ago. The traveler watches him for a moment. The older man notices and smiles gently. Still no words pass between them. Morning often begins in silence. Conversation will come naturally once the day's work is underway. There is comfort in shared quiet. Across the river, sunlight reaches the tops of tall papyrus reeds. Their green stems glow softly against the darker water. Tiny birds dart between them, searching for insects awakened by the warmth. One bird lands upon a reed so slender that it bends almost to the water's surface before slowly rising again. The movement is graceful. The river seems to breathe with everything living beside it. The traveler unties the thick rope securing his boat. He works carefully. The knot, tightened the evening before, loosens with practiced hands. He coils the rope immediately after freeing it. Loose rope left beneath one's feet invites trouble. Good habits become invisible because they are repeated every day. A neighboring merchant steps from his own small house carrying two large baskets balanced across a wooden shoulder pole. The baskets are filled with onions gathered before the flood reached the fields. They have been stored carefully in dry places and will be traded farther north. The merchant walks with steady steps. The weight upon his shoulders is familiar. He has carried similar loads since he was young. His oldest son follows behind with another basket, smaller but still heavy enough to require both hands. Neither complains. Work shared between family members feels lighter. As they reach the riverbank, they greet the traveler with warm smiles. Their voices remain soft in the early morning air. They exchange simple wishes for a peaceful day upon the river. Nothing more is needed. Kindness often arrives through ordinary words spoken sincerely. The merchant's wife appears soon afterward carrying a clay jar covered with woven reeds. Inside is cool drinking water prepared before sunrise. She hands it to her husband with gentle care. Before he places it inside the boat, she adjusts the covering once more, making certain it fits tightly enough to keep dust away. Such small acts are easy to overlook. Yet they quietly support the entire day. Care begins long before the journey itself. A young girl walks beside her mother carrying a bundle of fresh bread wrapped in linen. The loaves are still warm. Their pleasant aroma spreads through the morning air. One loaf is placed inside the merchant's boat. Another remains with the family at home. The little girl watches carefully as every item is arranged. She asks questions about where each basket belongs. Why should the heavier one stay near the middle? Why must the water jar remain shaded? Why is the rope always coiled before leaving? Her mother answers each question patiently. Knowledge is passed from one generation to the next through mornings exactly like this one. No written lesson is needed. Children learn by watching careful hands. The traveler steps into his own boat. The wood shifts slightly beneath his weight before settling once more. He places one foot near the center, balancing naturally without thinking. Years upon the river have taught his body how to move. He no longer watches every step. His muscles remember. He sets the wooden pole into its usual place and arranges the baskets that will be delivered later in the morning. Some contain woven cloth. Others hold jars sealed with clay lids. One basket carries dried fish prepared several days earlier. Everything must remain balanced. A poorly loaded boat wastes energy. A balanced one glides more easily across quiet water. The sun climbs a little higher. Its warmth is pleasant now. By midday it will become much stronger. The people beside the Nile understand this well. Most demanding work is done while the air remains cool. The hours before noon are precious. No one wishes to lose them. Farther along the bank, several fishermen prepare their nets. They spread them across the ground one final time. Each knot is inspected. Each float is checked. Small clay weights tied along the lower edge are examined for cracks. One young fisherman notices a broken cord no longer than his hand. Instead of ignoring it, he kneels immediately. From a small pouch hanging at his waist, he removes fresh cord and begins repairing the damage. His father watches quietly. He offers no instruction. The young man already knows what to do. Patience has become part of his character. The repair takes only a few moments. Soon the net is ready once again. The father nods with quiet approval. Nearby, two brothers load bundles of papyrus onto another boat. The tall green stalks have been harvested from dense patches farther downstream. Their smooth outer layers shine softly in the morning light. Later they will be carried to craftsmen who know how to transform them into writing sheets, baskets, mats, and many other useful things. Nothing gathered from the river is considered ordinary. Everything has purpose. The traveler watches the brothers secure their bundles. The smell of fresh-cut papyrus drifts gently across the water. It carries a clean scent, mixed with damp earth and morning dew. He has always enjoyed that smell. It reminds him of peaceful journeys made during earlier floods. A pair of children kneel at the river's edge filling small clay jars with water. Their grandmother stands nearby. She reminds them not to hurry. Water should be collected carefully. The jars must not strike one another. A cracked jar means many hours of work lost. The children listen. They move more slowly. One jar after another is filled and carried back toward the village. The grandmother smiles. There is satisfaction in watching young hands become steady through practice. The traveler pushes gently against the riverbed with his long wooden pole. The boat eases away from the bank. The movement is almost silent. Tiny ripples spread behind him. The reflection of the village stretches across the water before slowly breaking apart. He glides only a short distance before stopping again. Several other boats still need room to leave. There is no competition. Everyone waits patiently. The river is wide enough for all. As he rests quietly upon the calm water, he looks back toward the village. Smoke rises in thin gray lines from cooking fires. Children carry baskets toward their parents. Dogs wander sleepily between houses. Women sweep the packed earth outside their doorways with reed brooms. An elderly man repairs a woven mat beneath the shade of a sycamore tree. Nothing appears hurried. Every task unfolds at its own natural pace. The flood season has changed the shape of the land, but not the rhythm of the people. They continue living with quiet confidence. They know where the hidden channels lie. They know which trees mark safe passages. They know where deeper water waits beneath smooth reflections. This knowledge cannot be hurried. It grows over many years beside the Nile. The traveler turns his boat downstream. The gentle current welcomes him. The pole dips once more into the riverbed. He leans forward. The boat glides smoothly across the shining flood. Behind him, the village becomes a little smaller with every peaceful moment. Ahead, the quiet waterways wind through fields resting beneath the flood, carrying him toward another ordinary day filled with steady work, familiar faces, and the comforting rhythm of life along the ancient Nile. The boat moves so gently that the surface of the Nile seems almost unwilling to disturb it. Each push of the long wooden pole sends the vessel gliding forward with quiet grace, leaving only a widening pattern of ripples that slowly fade behind. The traveler does not hurry. There is no reason to. The morning is still young, and the air remains pleasantly cool. The strongest heat has not yet begun its steady climb across the floodplain. These first hours after sunrise are a gift to everyone who works upon the river. He stands comfortably near the center of the boat. One hand rests upon the smooth pole. The other remains relaxed at his side. His balance has become effortless after many years of travel. Even when the boat rocks gently beneath him, his feet adjust without thought. The river has taught his body its own quiet language. Ahead, the flooded land stretches in every direction. Only the tallest palms, clusters of papyrus, and patches of higher ground rise above the calm water. Somewhere beneath the shining surface lie narrow footpaths used only weeks before. Children once ran there carrying bundles of reeds. Farmers guided donkeys along those same paths. Neighbors greeted one another while walking between fields. Now the roads sleep beneath the flood. The traveler remembers exactly where many of them are. His father showed him years ago. "Do not look only at the water," he had said one peaceful morning. "Look beyond it." At the time, the lesson seemed puzzling. The water covered everything. But his father had pointed toward a pair of leaning date palms. Then toward a large sycamore standing alone on higher ground. Then toward a distant stone marker placed beside an old irrigation channel. "These remain," his father had explained. "The flood changes the river, but it does not erase the land." The traveler learned to read the landscape in this way. The trees became quiet guides. The shape of distant hills offered direction. Even the wind carried familiar hints. A breeze flowing across open water felt different from one passing through dense reeds. Such knowledge could not be written upon papyrus. It lived in memory. It passed from one generation to the next through shared journeys. A small flock of ibises circles overhead. Their white feathers shine brightly beneath the growing sunlight. For a few moments they glide without flapping their wings, carried by cool morning air. Then they descend toward a shallow stretch of flood water where insects gather among young reeds. The birds land with surprising gentleness. Their reflections ripple softly below them. The traveler watches them for a moment before continuing onward. Birds often reveal much about the river. Where they gather, fish are often nearby. Where they suddenly rise together, something has disturbed the water. Fishermen notice these quiet signs without needing to speak of them. Far ahead, another narrow boat emerges from behind a stand of papyrus. An elderly couple stands aboard. The husband guides the vessel while the wife arranges bundles of woven baskets beside him. The baskets are empty now. By afternoon they may be filled with vegetables, pottery, or bundles of flax gathered from villages farther along the river. As the two boats draw near, both travelers smile. The old man lifts one hand in greeting. "So peaceful this morning," he says softly. The traveler nods. The river is kind today. Their boats drift alongside one another for only a few heartbeats. No long conversation follows. There is no need. Simple words are enough between people who share the same river. The gentle current slowly carries them apart. Soon each continues along a different channel. The flooded landscape absorbs every sound. Even voices seem softer above open water. The traveler notices dragonflies hovering just above the river's surface. Their wings catch the sunlight like tiny pieces of polished glass. They dart quickly from one place to another before settling briefly upon reeds. The insects have become more numerous since the flood arrived. Children enjoy watching them. Some believe they dance with the morning breeze itself. Nearby, broad green lily leaves float quietly upon still water. A single white blossom has opened fully to greet the sun. Its petals remain perfectly clean despite growing from muddy water below. The flower sways gently as the traveler's boat passes. Tiny ripples spread outward beneath it. Nothing else changes. Silence soon returns. The morning carries many small scents. Fresh papyrus. Wet clay. Palm wood warmed by early sunlight. A faint sweetness from flowering shrubs growing upon higher ground. Every breath reminds the traveler that the flood has refreshed the land. The air feels cleaner than during the dry months. Even the dust has settled for a little while. Along one stretch of higher bank, several women kneel beside smooth stones washing linen. They arrived before sunrise while the water remained cool. Each piece of cloth is dipped carefully into the river, then rubbed gently against polished stones. After rinsing, the linen is spread across low bushes and ropes stretched between wooden posts. Soon the growing sunlight will dry every piece. The women speak quietly while they work. Their conversation rises and falls like the river itself. Sometimes they laugh. Sometimes they fall silent for several minutes. Their hands never stop moving. Years of practice allow work and conversation to flow together naturally. One young woman pauses to straighten her back. She watches a pair of boats glide across the flooded fields. Perhaps she wonders where the travelers are going. Perhaps she simply enjoys the peaceful sight. After a moment she returns to her washing. Morning leaves little room for idle thoughts. There is always another piece of linen waiting. Another basket to fill. Another meal to prepare. The traveler continues deeper into the quiet channels. Here the water becomes even calmer. Tall papyrus stands on both sides, forming narrow passages that seem almost hidden from the wider river. Sunlight filters through the green stems, creating shifting patterns upon the water. Small fish dart between the shadows. The only sounds are the gentle splash of the pole and the whisper of reeds brushing against one another. This is one of his favorite places. Few people travel here unless they know the channels well. The stillness feels complete. He remembers coming here with his older brother many years ago. They had been delivering bundles of reeds to a nearby workshop. The work finished early. Instead of returning immediately, they rested their boat beneath the shade of the papyrus. His brother had pointed toward a kingfisher perched quietly upon a reed. "Wait," he whispered. They remained perfectly still. Several moments later, the bird folded its wings and plunged into the water. It emerged almost instantly with a tiny fish shining in its beak. The brothers smiled. Neither spoke. Some moments become more meaningful when left undisturbed by words. That memory still returns whenever he passes this peaceful channel. The river keeps many such memories. Every bend recalls another season. Every landing place reminds him of someone once met there. An old merchant with gentle manners. A potter delivering fresh jars. A fisherman mending nets beneath a palm. A child proudly carrying his first basket alone. The river gathers people together again and again. Not through grand events. Through ordinary mornings repeated across many years. Ahead, a narrow landing comes into view. A few wooden posts rise from the water. Several small boats are already tied there. Nearby stands a simple storage shelter built from mud brick and roofed with palm beams. Its walls show patches where fresh mud has recently been applied after small cracks appeared. Maintenance never truly ends. Wind, water, and sunlight ask for constant care. A middle-aged scribe sits outside the shelter upon a low wooden stool. He has already begun his work for the day. Beside him rests a rolled sheet of papyrus, a palette holding black and red pigments, and several reed pens carefully trimmed to fine points. As each delivery arrives, he records simple details. The number of jars. The baskets of grain. The bundles of flax. The names of villages from which they came. His handwriting is steady. Unhurried. Every mark upon the papyrus is placed with quiet attention. The traveler guides his boat gently toward the landing. Before tying the rope, he waits while another boat finishes unloading. No one grows impatient. Waiting is simply another part of the morning. He watches as two young workers lift heavy baskets together. Their steps are slow and careful. The baskets sway slightly between them. Neither tries to carry more than can be managed safely. Steady work lasts longer than hurried effort. When the landing becomes free, the traveler eases his boat alongside the wooden posts. The hull touches the dock with the softest sound. He loops the rope around a worn post polished smooth by countless hands over countless seasons. The knot is tied carefully. Then checked once more. Only after he is satisfied does he step onto the firm earth. The ground feels different beneath his sandals after the gentle movement of the boat. Solid. Still. Warm already where the first sunlight has reached it. He lifts the first basket from the boat. It is comfortably heavy. Not difficult. Simply familiar. With calm, measured steps, he carries it toward the storage shelter while the Nile behind him continues its quiet journey northward, reflecting the brightening morning sky and carrying countless other boats toward another peaceful day in the timeless rhythm of ancient Egypt. The basket rests comfortably against the traveler's shoulder as he walks the short distance from the landing to the storage shelter. Each step presses gently into the damp earth left by the flood. His sandals leave clear marks that will remain until the next pair of footsteps passes over them. The morning is growing brighter now. The sun has climbed a little higher above the eastern horizon, though its warmth is still pleasant. Long shadows stretch across the ground from the wooden posts, the shelter, and the nearby palms. The light gives everything soft edges, making even simple mud brick walls appear warm and welcoming. The traveler reaches the doorway of the shelter. Inside, the air feels cooler than outside. The thick mud brick walls keep much of the morning warmth away. Rows of baskets stand neatly along one side. Clay jars rest upon low wooden platforms to protect them from damp ground. Bundles of papyrus are stacked carefully against the far wall, tied with woven cords that smell faintly of fresh reeds. Nothing is piled carelessly. Every object has been arranged with thought. The people who work here understand that order makes each day easier. When goods are placed where they belong, less time is spent searching, and more time remains for the quiet work that follows. The scribe looks up from his stool. His expression is calm and welcoming. He dips the tip of his reed pen into black pigment before making another careful mark upon the sheet of papyrus resting across his lap. The traveler waits patiently. There is no reason to interrupt. The scribe finishes one line before lifting his eyes again. "Good morning," he says in a gentle voice. "And to you," the traveler replies. The conversation is brief. The scribe asks from which village the goods have come. The traveler answers. The scribe nods slowly. His pen moves once more. Each symbol is written with steady care. He has learned that hurried writing often becomes difficult to read later. A clear record is worth the extra moment it takes to create. The traveler watches the pen glide across the papyrus. He has always admired scribes. Not because they live easier lives. Their work requires long hours of sitting, careful attention, and patient hands. Their backs often become stiff. Their eyes grow tired after reading many lines. Even quiet work carries its own kind of fatigue. The scribe rolls the completed section of papyrus slightly farther forward. Fresh space appears. Another line is written. Then another. The traveler notices how smooth the writing looks. The black marks stand neatly against the pale surface. The papyrus itself was once a tall green plant growing beside the very river that now flows only a few steps away. It has traveled a quiet journey of its own. Cut from the marsh. Separated into thin strips. Pressed together. Dried beneath the sun. Smoothed with careful hands. Now it carries the memory of another ordinary morning. History often survives through such simple things. not only through monuments of stone, but through records of baskets, jars, fields, and boats. Outside, another worker arrives carrying 2 clay jars balanced across a wooden shoulder pole. The jars sway gently as he walks. Their rounded sides catch the morning light. He lowers them carefully onto the ground before rubbing one shoulder with his hand. The weight has left a familiar ache. He smiles anyway. There is satisfaction in completing honest work before the heat becomes strong. The traveler returns to his boat for another basket. This one contains folded linen cloth. The fabric was woven during many quiet evenings while families gathered together after sunset. Women sat beneath oil lamps. Children slept nearby. Hands moved steadily through familiar motions. Thread crossed thread. Hour after hour. The finished cloth carries those peaceful evenings within every fold. He lifts the basket with both hands. The woven handles feel smooth from use. As he walks back toward the shelter, he notices the landing becoming busier. More boats have arrived. Some are small enough for one person. Others carry 2 or 3 workers. No voices rise loudly above the river. People greet one another with quiet smiles. A few exchange short conversations. Most simply begin unloading. The work itself creates its own gentle rhythm. A basket lifted. A rope untied. A jar carried. A bundle stacked. Wood creaks softly. Sandals press against packed earth. The river laps quietly against the boats. These sounds blend together into the peaceful music of an ordinary morning. Nearby, 2 young brothers struggle to carry a heavy sack of grain. Their father watches from only a few steps away. He does not rush to help immediately. Instead, he observes how they work together. One brother adjusts his grip. The other slows his pace. Without speaking, they find better balance. Only then does the father smile. "You have learned," he says simply. The boys smile back. The sack reaches the shelter safely. Small lessons become lasting knowledge when learned through experience. The traveler places the basket of linen beside several others. One piece unfolds slightly. Its pale color reflects the sunlight entering through the open doorway. The cloth feels soft beneath his fingertips. It will become clothing, household coverings, or perhaps wrapping for valuable goods traveling farther along the Nile. Every piece will find its purpose. Outside the shelter, an elderly woman sits beneath the shade of a sycamore tree weaving fresh baskets. Bundles of young palm leaves rest beside her. Her fingers move slowly but confidently. She does not pause to think about each movement. Her hands remember. One strip passes over another. Then beneath. Then over again. The pattern grows steadily. She has woven baskets for most of her life. Some have carried grain. Others have held fish. Some have gathered figs. Many have traveled the river in boats just like the one resting beside the landing now. Nothing she creates is decorated with unnecessary beauty. Its beauty comes from usefulness. A strong basket serves its owner well. That alone is enough. The traveler pauses for a moment to watch her work. She notices him looking. Without stopping, she smiles warmly. "It will be ready before midday," she says, holding up the basket taking shape in her lap. "It already looks strong," he replies. She nods. The leaves were cut at the right time. Such details matter. Palm leaves gathered too early remain weak. Gathered too late, they become brittle. Years of practice teach the perfect moment. The traveler continues back toward the boat. A gentle breeze ripples across the flood water. Tiny waves catch the sunlight, scattering bright reflections across the hulls of waiting boats. The ropes tied to the wooden posts move slightly. Their soft creaking joins the steady sounds of morning labor. A flock of small birds lands upon the roof of the storage shelter. They chatter briefly before one by one flying toward nearby reeds. Even they seem busy with their own quiet tasks. A young apprentice approaches the scribe carrying another roll of blank papyrus. The older man thanks him with a gentle nod. Together they inspect the edges of the roll. The apprentice smooths one corner where it has curled slightly during storage. The scribe smiles with approval. Careful preparation prevents frustration later. The apprentice beams quietly. He is still learning. Every morning teaches him something new. Perhaps one day he will become the keeper of these records himself. Perhaps another young student will stand beside him asking careful questions. Knowledge moves patiently from one generation to the next. Just as the Nile carries water northward, experience flows gently through time. The traveler reaches into his boat once more. Only a few bundles remain. He lifts one filled with carefully tied ropes woven from papyrus fibers. The ropes are smooth and strong. Some will replace worn lines upon fishing boats. Others will secure cargo. A few may help builders lift heavy stones or timbers. Simple rope connects countless kinds of work. It is rarely noticed. Yet many tasks become impossible without it. As he carries the bundle toward the shelter, he hears the pleasant sound of bread being broken nearby. Several workers have paused for a short meal. They sit together beneath the shade of a date palm. No table is needed. A woven mat spread upon the ground is enough. One man divides a round loaf into equal pieces. Another offers dried figs. Someone uncovers a small clay jar filled with cool water. Food passes quietly from hand to hand. Conversation remains gentle. They speak of river levels. Of healthy crops expected after the flood. Of children growing taller each season. Of an elderly neighbor whose roof will soon need repairing before the dry months return. No one speaks for long. Long pauses settle naturally between voices. No one feels the need to fill every silence. The traveler finishes placing the last of his bundles inside the shelter. His boat now sits noticeably lighter upon the water. The hull rides a little higher than it did at dawn. He steps outside and takes one slow breath. The air has already begun warming. The scent of baking bread has mixed with fresh-cut papyrus and damp earth. The village farther downstream has fully awakened now. More boats appear upon the river. Some carry vegetables. Others transport pottery wrapped carefully in straw. One broad boat glides slowly past carrying stacks of newly shaped clay jars destined for another settlement. The potter aboard keeps one hand lightly against the nearest stack, steadying it whenever the boat rocks. Every traveler has learned to move with the rhythm of the river instead of resisting it. The Nile rewards patience. It rewards careful hands. It rewards those who understand that every journey, no matter how ordinary, is made one quiet moment at a time. The traveler unties his now lightened boat from the landing post and allows it to drift gently back into the calm current. Ahead, more peaceful villages wait along the flooded banks, each beginning its day with the same familiar rhythm of work, kindness, and quiet life beneath the warm Egyptian sun. The boat slips away from the landing almost without a sound. For a few quiet moments, it drifts with the gentle current before the traveler lowers his wooden pole into the riverbed once again. He leans forward with calm, steady strength. The pole presses against the soft bottom, and the boat glides onward through the broad morning light. Behind him, the landing slowly grows smaller. The storage shelter becomes only a simple shape beside the water. The scribe returns to his careful writing. Workers continue carrying baskets from one place to another. Soon the peaceful activity blends into the landscape itself until it is no longer easy to tell where the village ends and the floodplain begins. The traveler faces the river ahead. The morning has fully awakened now. The sunlight stretches across the calm water like woven gold, yet the air still carries enough coolness to make every breath pleasant. This balance never lasts very long. Everyone who has spent years beside the Nile understands that the first hours after sunrise are precious. By midday, the warmth will settle heavily across the land. The breeze will become quieter. The shade beneath trees will seem especially welcoming. But for now, the river feels open and gentle. The traveler allows himself to enjoy every peaceful moment. He moves through a wide channel where the flood water reflects the sky so clearly that it almost becomes another world beneath the boat. Clouds are rare this morning. Only a few pale wisps rest high above the eastern horizon. Their reflections drift across the water beside him, broken only by the slow ripples spreading from the bow. A pair of turtles rests upon a smooth fallen log rising above the flood. Their shells shine softly in the sunlight. Neither seems concerned as the boat passes. One slowly stretches its neck. The other slips quietly into the water with barely a splash. Tiny circles spread outward before disappearing into the stillness. The traveler smiles gently. He has seen this simple scene many times. Even so, it never becomes ordinary. The river always offers something quiet to notice. Sometimes it is a bird. Sometimes a flower opening with the morning. Sometimes only the way sunlight dances across moving water. These small moments ask for nothing except patient eyes. Along the edge of a shallow inlet, clusters of lotus flowers bloom peacefully. Their broad leaves float upon the surface like small green islands. Pink and white blossoms rise above them on graceful stems. A faint fragrance drifts through the cool air whenever the breeze changes direction. Bees move lazily from flower to flower. Their quiet work has already begun. The traveler slows his boat slightly. There is no need to hurry past such beauty. He watches a dragonfly hover above one blossom before darting away into the reeds. Everything along the river follows its own gentle purpose. Nothing appears rushed. Farther ahead, a narrow strip of higher ground emerges from the flood. A group of goats grazes there beneath the watchful eye of a young shepherd. The boy cannot be much older than 12 summers. He sits upon a smooth stone with a long staff resting across his knees. His flock spreads quietly around him, nibbling fresh green shoots that have appeared where the flood has not reached. From time to time he whistles softly. The goats lift their heads. Then, seeing no danger, they return to grazing. The shepherd has learned that patience keeps animals calmer than loud commands. His father taught him that lesson. And his father's father likely learned it the same way. The traveler raises a hand in greeting as he passes. The boy smiles broadly and waves back. For a few moments, the goats watch the boat drift by with quiet curiosity. Then they return to their breakfast. Morning continues unfolding one peaceful scene after another. The traveler reaches into a small basket beside him and removes another date. He eats it slowly. Its sweetness lingers pleasantly. He drinks a little cool water from his clay jar before covering it again with its woven lid. The water remains refreshing. The thick clay has protected it well from the growing warmth. Nearby, the call of a dove echoes gently through the palms. Another answers from deeper within the grove. Their soft voices seem perfectly suited to the peaceful morning. They never interrupt the silence. Instead, they become part of it. The boat enters another narrow passage bordered by tall papyrus. Here the water is darker because the reeds cast long shadows across its surface. Sunlight slips through the green stems in thin golden lines. The traveler remembers coming through this same channel during another flood many years ago. He had been much younger then. His father stood where he now stands. The old man guided the boat while explaining the hidden paths beneath the water. Notice the current, his father had said. It moves differently where the ground rises. The young traveler had watched carefully. At first, he could see nothing unusual. But after many quiet minutes, he noticed tiny differences. The floating leaves drifted slightly faster in one place. The ripples curved gently around another. The water itself quietly revealed the shape of the land beneath. Those lessons remained with him. Even now, decades later, he still notices the smallest changes in the current. Knowledge earned slowly often stays for a lifetime. The reeds sway gently as the breeze passes through them. Their whisper is soft enough that it almost sounds like distant conversation. Thousands of slender stems brush lightly against one another. The sound rises. Then fades. Then returns again. It has no beginning. It has no end. Only the steady rhythm of wind moving through living plants. A white egret steps carefully through the shallows. Its long legs create tiny ripples that spread across the clear water. It pauses. Completely still. Its reflection becomes almost perfect. Then, with quiet precision, it catches a small fish. The movement is quick but never violent. Within moments the bird resumes its patient walk. The traveler continues onward. The river bends gently to the north. Beyond the reeds, another village slowly comes into view. Its mud brick homes rest upon slightly higher ground protected from the deepest flood water. Palm trees surround the settlement, their broad leaves shimmering beneath the growing sun. Smoke rises from several cooking fires. The scent of fresh bread reaches the river even from this distance. Children have already begun carrying small baskets between houses. One little boy struggles with a bundle of dry reeds nearly as tall as himself. An older sister walks beside him. Without saying anything, she quietly lifts one end of the bundle. Together they continue toward the cooking fire. The younger boy smiles with relief. Small acts of kindness often happen without anyone speaking about them. An elderly man sits outside his doorway repairing a fishing basket. He bends each fresh strip of palm carefully into place. His fingers move slowly. Age has stiffened his joints, but it has not taken away his skill. He pauses now and then to look toward the river. Perhaps he is remembering earlier mornings. Perhaps he simply enjoys watching the boats glide past. The traveler nods respectfully as he passes the village. The old man returns the greeting with a warm smile. Their paths may never cross again. Still, the brief exchange carries the quiet friendship shared by people who live along the same river. Near the edge of the village, several women spread freshly washed linen across ropes tied between wooden posts. The cloth moves gently in the breeze. Bright sunlight shines through the woven fibers, revealing careful craftsmanship. Each piece represents many evenings of spinning thread and weaving cloth by the light of small oil lamps. Nothing beautiful arrives quickly. Time lives inside every finished piece. The traveler notices a young mother teaching her daughter how to smooth wrinkles from the cloth before hanging it. The girl's small hands imitate every movement. Sometimes she makes mistakes. The mother simply smiles and shows her again. No frustration enters her voice. Learning, like the river, moves at its own pace. The traveler leaves the village behind. The sounds of daily life gradually soften once more. Ahead lies another peaceful stretch of open water. The flood reflects the brightening sky. Birds cross overhead. Fish ripple beneath the surface. The gentle breeze continues its quiet journey across the Nile, carrying with it the scents of wet earth, warm reeds, fresh bread, and flowering lotus. The traveler stands comfortably within his small boat, guiding it with steady hands and an unhurried heart, allowing the timeless rhythm of the ancient river to carry him gently toward whatever ordinary and peaceful moments the rest of the morning will quietly bring. The river widens again beyond the village, opening into a broad sheet of quiet water that seems to stretch endlessly beneath the morning sky. The flooded fields blend so gently into the Nile that it is difficult to see where the river truly ends and the land begins. Water and earth have become close companions for the season, sharing the same peaceful space. The traveler lets the boat drift for a little while. He rests both hands upon the smooth wooden pole and simply watches the morning unfold around him. Not every moment beside the Nile is filled with work. There are brief pauses between one task and the next, and those pauses become part of the day's rhythm. The boat glides slowly. A gentle breeze brushes across the surface of the water, carrying tiny ripples toward the bow. The movement is so soft that it hardly rocks the vessel. The traveler closes his eyes for a single breath. He listens. Water slips quietly along the wooden hull. Somewhere nearby, a kingfisher gives a short, clear call. Farther away, another boat creaks gently as its rope shifts against polished wood. The breeze moves through the papyrus with its familiar whisper. These sounds have accompanied nearly every morning of his life. If they were absent, the silence would feel unfamiliar. He opens his eyes once more. The sunlight has become warmer now. Its reflection dances across the rippling water in countless tiny flashes. Each movement lasts only a heartbeat before another takes its place. The river is never perfectly still. Even on its calmest mornings, it is always quietly changing. A cluster of floating reeds drifts nearby. The traveler guides his boat gently around them rather than through them. There is no reason to scatter the plants when the river offers plenty of room. Such small choices become habits over time. People who spend their lives beside the Nile often develop a quiet respect for everything that shares its waters. Not far ahead, a pair of fishermen has anchored their narrow boat beside a thick stand of papyrus. One sits patiently with a woven net gathered across his knees. The other slowly untangles a section that caught upon a submerged branch earlier that morning. Neither appears frustrated. They work with calm concentration. A tangled net asks only for patient hands. Pulling too quickly would tighten every knot. The older fisherman gently loosens each strand one at a time. His fingers move with surprising care. The younger man watches closely. From time to time he asks a quiet question. The older fisherman answers while continuing his work. Lessons are shared naturally. No formal teaching is needed. Knowledge passes from one pair of hands to another. The traveler offers a warm greeting as his boat passes. The fishermen return his smile. One of them lifts a single fish from a basket resting near his feet. Its silver scales catch the sunlight before he places it carefully beneath a damp cloth to keep it cool. Their morning has already been successful. There is no excitement. Only quiet satisfaction. The traveler continues onward. The flooded plain opens once again into peaceful stillness. Here and there, small islands of higher ground rise above the water. Some support clusters of date palms. Others hold little more than tall grasses waving gently in the breeze. On one such island, 3 white cattle rest beneath the shade of an acacia tree. Their tails move lazily from time to time, brushing away insects. They seem perfectly content. A young herdsman sits nearby, carving a small piece of wood with a copper knife. Perhaps he is shaping a new handle for a tool. Perhaps he is making a simple toy for a younger brother. Whatever the purpose, his movements are slow and careful. He pauses often to examine his work before removing another thin shaving. Nothing about the morning asks him to rush. The traveler remembers carving small pieces of wood when he was a boy. His father had given him scraps left over after repairing a boat. Some became little animals. Others became smooth pegs for practice. Most were imperfect. His father never laughed at the mistakes. Instead, he would turn the piece in his hands, smile gently, and say, "The next one will teach you something new." Those words remained with him long after childhood ended. The boat enters another quiet bend in the river. The water here is clear enough that he can see patches of waving plants beneath the surface. Small fish dart among them, disappearing whenever the shadow of the boat passes overhead. A turtle swims slowly below, its shell visible for only a moment before it settles into deeper water. The traveler watches it disappear. The river holds countless lives beneath its calm surface. Many remain unseen. Yet they are always there, moving through the same waters that carry boats from village to village. The sun climbs a little higher. The warmth upon his shoulders becomes more noticeable now. He reaches for the light linen cloth resting beside him and drapes it loosely across the back of his neck. It provides welcome shade without trapping the morning breeze. Many workers dress this way during the hotter months. Simple clothing allows the air to move freely. Comfort often comes from understanding the land rather than struggling against it. Ahead, he notices a small landing he has visited many times before. It is little more than a few wooden posts driven into firm ground. A broad sycamore tree spreads its branches nearby, casting a generous patch of shade. Travelers often stop here during longer journeys. Not because there are many buildings. There are only two small mud brick storehouses and a modest shelter woven from reeds. People stop because the shade is cool, the water is deep enough for boats, and the place feels welcoming. As he approaches, he sees another traveler already resting beneath the sycamore. An older woman sits upon a woven mat with several baskets arranged around her. Each basket is filled with dried herbs gathered from higher ground before the flood. Bundles of mint, coriander, and fragrant desert plants are tied neatly with thin strips of palm fiber. She is sorting them patiently into smaller bundles. Her hands move slowly but confidently. Years of experience guide every motion. A young granddaughter sits beside her. The child watches carefully before attempting to tie one bundle herself. Her fingers fumble with the knot. The older woman smiles. Without taking the bundle away, she gently guides the little hands. Together they tighten the cord. The child beams with quiet pride. Learning arrives through shared moments like these. The traveler ties his boat beneath the shade. Before sitting down, he splashes a little river water onto his hands and face. The coolness is refreshing. The sycamore's broad leaves stir softly overhead. Their shadows dance across the ground whenever the breeze passes through. He removes a small piece of barley bread from his basket. It is no longer warm, yet it remains satisfying. He eats slowly. Nearby, the older woman offers her granddaughter a fresh fig. The child thanks her with a shy smile. The sweet fruit leaves tiny drops of juice upon her fingers. She carefully wipes them on a small cloth tucked into her belt. Even children are taught to care for their belongings. Nothing useful is treated carelessly. For a little while, no one speaks. The quiet feels complete. Birdsong drifts from the branches above. A bee circles lazily among small blossoms growing near the riverbank. The leaves rustle gently. The Nile continues its patient journey only a few steps away. The traveler leans comfortably against the trunk of the sycamore. Its bark is rough beneath his shoulder. The tree has likely stood here for many decades. Perhaps even longer. How many travelers has it shaded? How many fishermen have rested beneath its branches after long mornings upon the water? How many merchants have shared simple meals here before continuing north? The tree keeps its own silent memories. Its roots reach deeply into the fertile earth left by countless floods. Its branches offer shelter without asking anything in return. The traveler closes his eyes for a few peaceful moments. Not to sleep. Only to rest. The sounds around him become even softer. The distant splash of an oar. The quiet hum of insects. The gentle laughter of the little girl as she successfully ties another bundle of herbs. The breeze moving through thousands of leaves overhead. It is enough. Nothing extraordinary happens. Nothing needs to happen. An ordinary morning beside the Nile is already rich with quiet beauty. After a short rest, he opens his eyes once more. The sunlight filtering through the sycamore has shifted slightly across the ground. Time has moved forward gently, almost unnoticed. He folds the cloth from his meal, places it carefully back into his basket, and stands with an easy stretch. His journey is not long today. There are still peaceful stretches of river ahead, more quiet villages, more familiar faces, and countless small moments waiting to unfold beside the calm waters of the ancient Nile. The traveler stands quietly beneath the broad branches of the sycamore for another few moments before returning to his boat. The shade has been kind. The cool earth beneath the tree has eased the warmth gathering in his feet. His simple meal has settled comfortably, leaving him ready for the next gentle stretch of the journey. He looks once toward the older woman and her granddaughter. The little girl is carefully tying another bundle of herbs. This time her fingers move with greater confidence. The knot holds firmly. The grandmother smiles with quiet satisfaction. She says nothing. The child's own smile is reward enough. The traveler raises one hand in farewell. The older woman returns the gesture. The child copies her grandmother, lifting her small hand with great seriousness before breaking into a shy grin. The boat eases away from the landing. The rope slides free from the worn wooden post with a soft whisper. The traveler coils it immediately, placing it neatly beside the other tools. The habit is so deeply rooted that he hardly notices himself doing it. Years of careful work have turned thoughtful actions into effortless routines. The sycamore slowly recedes behind him. Its wide canopy remains visible for some time, standing above the surrounding reeds like a quiet guardian watching over generations of travelers. Many people know this tree. Some remember resting beneath it as children. Others have tied their boats there through many flood seasons. The tree asks for nothing. It simply continues growing, offering shade to anyone who happens along the river. The channel ahead narrows slightly before bending toward the east. Tall reeds line both banks. Their green stalks rise well above the traveler's head. Soft plumes sway gently whenever the breeze passes through. The sound is like countless tiny brushes moving together. The traveler slows his pace. This part of the river always encourages slower movement. The water is deeper here, but hidden roots sometimes reach outward from the banks. A careful boatman watches not only the surface, but also the gentle patterns of the current. The water quietly reveals what lies beneath. Small whirlpools form beside submerged branches. Floating leaves drift around hidden obstacles. The traveler notices these signs without effort. his eyes have learned to read them over many years. A narrow canoe appears ahead. It is little more than a small papyrus craft, carrying a young fisherman no older than 20. Several woven fish traps rest beside him. He checks each one carefully before lowering it into the quiet water near a stand of reeds. The traps are simple. They are woven tightly enough to guide fish inside while making it difficult for them to swim back out. The young fisherman lowers each trap slowly. He avoids splashing. There is no reason to disturb the calm water. The traveler watches him work. He remembers learning the same skill many years ago. His uncle had been patient. He explained where fish preferred to gather during the flood. Near reeds. Near quiet channels. Near places where insects often settled upon the surface. Fishing was never only about nets. It was about observing the river. The young fisherman notices the passing boat and smiles. "May the current stay gentle," he calls softly. "And may your traps be full," the traveler replies. Both continue on their separate paths. The exchange lasts only a few heartbeats. Yet it leaves behind the pleasant feeling of shared understanding between two people whose lives are shaped by the same water. The reeds gradually open once more. Beyond them lies a broad flooded meadow where the water is so shallow that clusters of green plants reach above the surface. White egrets wander through the flooded grasses. They move with patient, measured steps. Every few moments one pauses, lowering its head slightly before catching a tiny fish or insect. Nearby, several ducks paddle lazily across the still water. Their soft quacking carries gently across the open space. The traveler notices a family of ducks. The smallest follow closely behind their mother. Each tiny wake blends with the next until the water smooths itself once again. Nothing upon the river remains unchanged for long. Yet every change happens quietly. The sun climbs a little higher. Its warmth begins to settle upon the traveler's shoulders and arms. He reaches into the boat for a broad woven hat made from palm fibers. The hat is simple. Its edges have become slightly uneven after many seasons of use. One section has been repaired with fresh weaving. Another shows the faded color left by countless days beneath the Egyptian sun. He places it gently upon his head. Instantly the shade feels welcome. Many workers own hats much like this one. A good hat may serve for years if treated carefully. The traveler remembers making this one with his older sister during a quiet evening several flood seasons ago. She had gathered fresh palm strips while he soaked them in water to make them more flexible. Together they sat outside their family home as the evening breeze moved through the village. Their mother prepared bread nearby. Their father repaired a broken paddle beneath an oil lamp. No one hurried. Hands remained busy. Conversation came and went naturally. The finished hat has accompanied many journeys since then. Each repair reminds him of another season past. Ahead, several boys stand upon a stretch of firm ground just above the flood. Each holds a small bundle of reeds. They laugh quietly as they attempt to weave tiny toy boats. Some float well. Others sink almost immediately. The boys watch each attempt with cheerful curiosity. One little boat catches a gentle breeze and drifts farther than the others. The youngest boy runs along the bank trying to follow it. His older brother walks calmly behind him, smiling. The traveler slows his own boat. He watches the children for a few moments. One notices him and proudly holds up his newest creation. The tiny boat is uneven. One side leans slightly. Yet it floats. The traveler nods with genuine admiration. It travels well. The boy's smile grows even wider. Perhaps years from now he will guide full-sized boats across these same waters. Every skilled boatman once built little reed boats beside the river. The traveler continues onward. The boys soon disappear behind a curve in the bank. Their laughter becomes softer until it blends completely with the sounds of birds and water. The morning moves steadily toward midday. The air grows warmer. Insects hum among flowering plants. A pair of bees circles blossoms growing upon a patch of higher ground. Nearby, bright blue kingfishers flash above the water before disappearing into the reeds. The river remains full of quiet life. Along the western bank, several women gather bundles of flax that had been stored safely above the flood. The long fibers are tied neatly together before being loaded into waiting baskets. One woman pauses to wipe a few drops of sweat from her forehead. Another offers her a drink from a cool clay jar. They smile warmly at one another before returning to work. Small kindnesses pass almost unnoticed. Yet they quietly shape each day. The traveler notices an elderly man sitting outside a small mud brick house overlooking the floodplain. His hands rest upon a walking stick polished smooth by many years of use. He is no longer strong enough for long journeys upon the river. Instead, he watches. Boats pass one after another. Birds rise from the reeds. Children carry baskets between homes. The old man seems content simply to witness another peaceful morning. The traveler imagines that he once guided boats across these waters himself. Perhaps he knew every hidden channel. Perhaps he taught younger workers where the current deepened after the flood. Now others carry that knowledge forward. The river remembers them all. The traveler raises a respectful hand. The old man returns the greeting with a slow nod. Their meeting lasts only a moment. Still, it feels meaningful. Life beside the Nile is filled with such quiet acknowledgements. People may never learn one another's names. Yet they recognize shared labor, shared seasons, and shared respect for the river that sustains them. The current becomes almost still as the boat enters another sheltered bend. The water reflects the bright blue sky so perfectly that the traveler almost feels suspended between two worlds. Above him, swallows dart gracefully through the warm air. Below, their reflections mirror every movement. The only interruption comes from the gentle dipping of the wooden pole into the riverbed. Push. Glide. Push. Glide. The rhythm has become as steady as breathing. His shoulders move without strain. His hands know exactly where to grip. His feet shift naturally as the boat glides forward. The body remembers what the mind no longer needs to command. A pleasant scent drifts across the water. Fresh bread. Someone in a nearby village has begun baking another batch for the midday meal. The aroma mingles with warm reeds, damp earth, and flowering lotus carried by the breeze. The traveler smiles softly. Soon he, too, will pause again beneath whatever shade the river offers, sharing another simple meal before continuing through the peaceful waterways of ancient Egypt, where each quiet hour unfolds with the same gentle rhythm that has guided life along the Nile for countless generations. The morning continues to unfold with quiet patience as the traveler follows the slow curves of the Nile. The sun has climbed high enough that the shadows are no longer long and gentle. They gather close beneath boats, trees, and riverbanks, becoming smaller with every passing moment. The warmth settles gradually across the floodplain. It does not arrive all at once. Instead, it spreads like a familiar blanket over the fields, the reeds, the mud brick homes, and the calm surface of the river. The traveler notices the change immediately. His linen clothing still feels light, but the coolness of dawn has now become only a pleasant memory. The breeze remains, though it has softened. It moves across the open water with less strength than before, barely stirring the broad leaves of the lotus flowers floating near the banks. He reaches into the boat and pours a little water from his clay jar into a small cup. The water is still cool. The thick walls of the jar have protected it well from the growing heat. He drinks slowly. There is no reason to empty the cup quickly. Each sip feels refreshing. Afterward, he replaces the cover carefully, making certain no dust will find its way inside. Simple habits preserve simple comforts. Ahead, the river widens into a peaceful basin where several narrow channels meet before flowing north once again. The flood has transformed this place into a quiet crossroads. Boats arrive from different villages, carrying many kinds of goods. Some transport baskets of onions. Others carry bundles of flax tied neatly with palm fiber. One broad boat glides slowly across the water with rows of empty clay jars waiting to be filled farther downstream. Another carries nothing but stacks of fresh reeds gathered at sunrise. Every traveler moves with calm purpose. No one races another boat. The river offers enough room for everyone. The traveler guides his vessel toward the center of the broad channel. As he does, he notices a family traveling together in a larger wooden boat. The father stands at the stern, gently steering. His wife sits near the middle beside several woven baskets. An elderly grandmother rests comfortably upon folded blankets beneath a small shade made from linen stretched across wooden poles. Two children sit near the bow. They trail their fingers through the cool water whenever their father allows the boat to drift. The younger child laughs softly each time tiny ripples spread away from his hand. His older sister gathers a few floating lotus leaves, examining the patterns of their veins before placing them gently back upon the water. Their mother smiles as she watches them. She reminds them not to lean too far over the side. Her voice remains calm. The children listen immediately. There is trust between them. The traveler smiles at the peaceful family as their boats pass one another. The father lifts one hand. "May your journey be easy." "And yours as well," the traveler replies. The exchange fades behind him as both boats continue toward different villages. For a little while, the traveler thinks about families who spend their lives upon the river. Children raised beside boats often learn balance before they learn to read. They understand the sound of moving water almost as well as they know the voices of their parents. Many can tie simple knots while still quite young. They grow up watching careful hands coil ropes, mend nets, and patch wooden hulls. The river becomes one of their earliest teachers. A broad stretch of papyrus appears ahead. The green stems rise high above the water, gently swaying in the midday breeze. Tiny insects dance among them. Bright blue dragonflies flash through narrow openings where sunlight reaches the calm water below. The traveler slows his pace once more. This place has always felt peaceful. The papyrus muffles distant sounds. Even the calls of birds seem softer here. He remembers visiting this marsh with his mother when he was a small boy. She gathered young papyrus stems for weaving while he searched the muddy ground for smooth stones. He proudly filled a tiny basket before discovering that many of the stones looked almost exactly alike. His mother laughed gently. She told him every stone had its own story, even if their differences were difficult to see. He did not fully understand then. Years later, he thinks of those words whenever he notices small details that others might overlook. The slight bend in a reed. The worn handle of an old paddle. The quiet smile shared between strangers at a riverside landing. Simple things become meaningful when seen with patient eyes. The channel narrows again. The traveler carefully guides the boat between clusters of reeds that lean slightly into the water. Their tips brush lightly against the side of the hull. The sound is soft. Almost like fingertips moving across woven cloth. Several small birds flutter from one stand of papyrus to another, disappearing almost as quickly as they appeared. One settles upon a stem so thin that it bends deeply beneath its weight. After a moment, the bird flies away. The stem slowly rises upright once again. The traveler continues without disturbing the quiet. Beyond the marsh, the flooded fields open once more. In the distance he sees several farmers standing upon a long strip of higher ground that has remained above the flood. They are repairing low earthen walls surrounding a grain store. The walls are built from packed mud mixed with straw. During the dry season they stand firm. But after many months of changing weather, small cracks sometimes appear. The men kneel together, pressing fresh mud carefully into every opening. They smooth each repair with flat wooden tools. One worker steps back from time to time, examining the wall from different angles. If one place appears uneven, he quietly returns to improve it. There is pride in careful work. The wall does not need to be beautiful. It needs to protect the harvest. Nearby, two women spread fresh mud across the outer wall of a small house. The old surface had become rough after months beneath the desert sun. Now the new layer gives the home a clean appearance. One woman smooths the wall with broad strokes of her hand. The other follows behind, gently evening the surface with a damp cloth. A little girl watches nearby. She cannot resist helping. She reaches toward the wall with her tiny hand. Her mother laughs softly and guides her to a lower corner where a few uneven spots remain. Together they smooth the mud. The little girl beams proudly at her small contribution. The traveler enjoys watching these quiet moments. Great monuments may last for centuries, but ordinary homes require constant care. Each season brings another repair. Another fresh layer of mud. Another bundle of reeds for the roof. Families maintain their homes little by little, year after year. The flood nourishes the land, but it also reminds people that nothing remains unchanged forever. A breeze carries the pleasant smell of damp clay across the river. Mixed with it comes the faint aroma of fresh bread baking somewhere beyond the palms. The traveler feels no hunger yet. Still, the familiar scent brings comfort. He remembers countless mornings returning home to find bread cooling upon woven trays while his mother prepared vegetables and herbs for the midday meal. His father would wash the dust from his hands before sitting beneath the shade beside the doorway. The family would eat together quietly. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they simply listened to the wind moving through the palms. Silence was never empty. It was filled with familiar sounds. Ahead, several boys stand knee-deep in the shallow flood water near a cluster of reeds. Each carries a small woven basket. They search carefully beneath the surface for freshwater shells. Every few moments one boy reaches down and lifts another shell from the soft mud. The baskets slowly become heavier. An older man watches from the bank. Now and then he offers gentle advice. Look near the roots. Move slowly. The larger ones rest deeper. The boys nod and continue searching. Learning comes through doing. The traveler smiles as he passes. One of the boys proudly holds up a shell nearly the size of his hand. The old man nods with quiet approval. The boat glides onward. The village sounds gradually fade behind him once again. Only the river remains. The soft splash of the pole. The whisper of reeds. The distant call of an egret crossing the bright midday sky. The warm scent of earth rising from the flooded banks. The traveler feels grateful for these peaceful hours. There is work to do. There are more villages ahead. More boats to meet. More quiet landings where ropes will be tied and baskets carefully lifted. Yet there is no sense of rushing toward them. The Nile has its own pace, steady and unchanging. And as the boat continues north through the shimmering floodwaters, surrounded by reeds, lotus blossoms, birds, and the gentle sounds of ordinary life, the ancient river carries another calm and unhurried day forward, just as it has done through countless seasons beneath the warm Egyptian sun. The sun continues its slow journey across the sky until its bright light begins to soften once more. The warmth that settled over the floodplain through the long afternoon gradually gives way to the gentler air of evening. Shadows stretch farther across the quiet water. Palm trees cast long reflections that seem to reach toward the middle of the Nile, where they drift gently beside the slow current. The traveler finishes the last small task of his day without hurry. One final rope is tied. One final basket is placed beneath shelter. One last careful look is given to the wooden boat that has carried him faithfully through another peaceful journey during the flood season. The boat rests quietly against the riverbank, rising and falling almost too gently to notice. It has no need to travel farther today. Neither does its owner. Nearby, the village settles into its familiar evening rhythm. The scent of fresh bread once again drifts through the cooling air. Clay ovens glow softly as families prepare their simple meals. Children return home carrying empty baskets that had been full that morning. They speak more quietly now than they did beneath the afternoon sun. The day's work has gently tired everyone. A fisherman folds his net with slow, practiced hands before placing it inside his boat. A potter washes the last traces of clay from his fingers. A woman hangs one final piece of linen where the evening breeze may cool it before night. An elderly man sits outside his mud brick home, watching the river with the calm expression of someone who has seen many flood seasons come and go. No one rushes. The day asks nothing more. Above, birds make their final flights toward the reeds and the tops of the palm trees. One by one, their calls become fewer until only the soft sounds of the river remain. The traveler spreads his woven mat beside the boat, just as he did the night before. The earth is still warm from the day's sunshine. He folds his cloak beneath his head. His sandals rest neatly beside him. The rope securing the boat is checked once more with gentle hands. Everything is ready. The first stars quietly appear above the eastern horizon. Their light is faint at first. Then another joins them. And another. Soon the sky becomes filled with familiar companions shining peacefully over the ancient river. The moon rises slowly, laying a silver path across the calm water. Tiny ripples carry its reflection downstream, where it mingles with reeds, lotus leaves, and quiet shadows along the banks. The traveler listens. Water brushes softly against the wooden hull. A frog sings from somewhere among the papyrus. The breeze moves through palm leaves with a whisper so gentle it feels almost like a lullaby. Far away, a night bird calls only once before silence returns. His breathing grows slower. His shoulders become lighter. The tiredness earned through honest work settles comfortably within him. There is nothing left to carry. Nothing left to repair. Nothing left to prepare until another dawn arrives. The Nile continues flowing north, just as it has for thousands of years. It carries reflections of stars. It carries drifting reeds. It carries little boats and quiet hopes from one village to the next. Generations have fallen asleep beside these waters. Generations have awakened to the same gentle current. The river remembers them all without speaking their names. Tonight, it remembers one more peaceful traveler resting beside his faithful boat during the flood season. The breeze cools. The stars brighten. The sounds of the village fade into the distance until they become part of the river itself. The ancient world grows still. The reeds sway softly beneath the moonlight. The palms stand patiently along the shore. The calm water continues its endless journey beneath a sky filled with quiet stars. And little by little, as the Nile whispers through the peaceful night, the ancient land settles into complete silence, carrying every tired soul gently toward restful sleep, where the river flows on, calm and unhurried, until the first light of another distant dawn. May this story leave the same feeling as the Nile itself, steady, peaceful, and quietly timeless. Sleep well.